All benign?
Yep.
Usually dogs have balls.
Good evening and welcome to the Town of Wareham Board of Selectmen's meeting of August 29th, 2017. May we have a roll call, please?
Present is Town Administrator Sullivan, Selectman Scaziatos, Selectman Whiteside, Selectman Slavin, Selectman Titlebaum.
Now, let's see. Pledge of Allegiance. Michael, will you lead us in the pledge, please?
All right. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okay, next up, announcements. Selectman Scasiotti? Selectman Whiteside?
I have several, thank you. As of August 1st, the overdue dog licensing fee went to $50 per dog. Just reminding people, because apparently there are some of you who still have not licensed your dogs that you walk on the beach, among other places. Coast Sweep, which is Coast Sweep is being undertaken again this year by Wareham Land Trust and Don't Trash Wareham. Little Harbor Beach is going to be picked up on September 16th, rain date of the 17th. Meet in the parking lot. Onset and Shell Point on the 23rd of September, meet at the pier, and the 24th is the rain date. Swift's Beach and Swift's Neck, 9:30, and the next day if it's a rain date. Some statistics from last year's pickup. There were over 2 million cigarette butts picked up by the people in Massachusetts who counted what they picked up. There were over 1 million plastic bottles picked up. There were 28 refrigerators picked up. There were 39 toilet seats picked up. Those were some of the interesting statistics to some of you. Anybody who picks up from September 1st to September 30th, anyone who signs up for a new library card will get a chance to win one of two $50 meal gift certificates and family miniature golf rounds donated by Cool Cone and the Friends of the Wareham Free Library. Adults and children may sign up for a new library card at either the main library or the Spinney Memorial Branch Library. Each library will have its own family meal certificate and golf round raffle. The winners will be announced on September 30th. This is a library card. It's mine. You can see that I've had it for a little while. It's kind of worn out. This is what today's library card looks like. This was free. This is free. This entitles you to travel the entire world free. I advise you all to take one, get one. And then finally,
How old is the card? What is that, 50 years old now? Hey, it's a grabber.
I think those are outlawed by the Geneva Convention.
What else you got?
unfortunately, the end of the month, the end of the summer, and the beginning of really yucky stuff is coming. These belong in your car or your wastebasket at home, not at the beach. We all have some of these, okay? I actually picked this up on the side of the road to bring it here, okay? Hook this over either your gear shift or hook it over the back of the seat rest and put your junk in it. If you're old and you really don't want to bend over, this is what you should carry in your car. Okay? You don't need to bend over. When you are picking up trash, you might want to wear one of these because it apparently is a game to try and kill people who are picking up trash. you aim at them and you scare them into the bushes. All kidding aside, ladies and gentlemen, this is our town. We live here. Don't throw your mattresses on the road. Don't throw your needles in the parking lot. Don't throw your nip bottles on the sidewalk. It's just crazy, 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 crazy. And one more. CORE has a new website, which is the Committee Rebuilding Lopes Playground. You can buy pickets for $40 a piece and have them engraved with your name or somebody else's name. There is a website you can go to. There's a Facebook page, and you can also pick up the applications for the pickets at the library and a couple of other places as well. That's it.
I think we'll need to add a new section to our announcements. Evening session by Whiteside.
What have you got there?
Nothing yet. To continue on with wonderful trash and rubbish, I'd like to thank Mrs. Nora Bickey this afternoon. She gave me a hand cleaning up Narrows Road. It's really interesting what transpires on the road. Stuff gets thrown off. Somebody found a way to dump hay with looked like probably stuff that horses put out when they finish eating, and packed it all together.
No, it was rabbits.
Well, whatever. It was basically about 75-pound bag, plastic around. It was fun to lift up. They just dumped it by the railroad tracks by the Narrows restaurant. And I have to say that for the first time so far, I also got 2 condoms today picking up, which was a new first for me. So I'd like to thank those people that are trying their best to make Wareham beautiful. And that's all I have to say today.
Well, at least they're practicing birth control.
No, they had holes in them.
I guess I've got nowhere to go but up.
I hope so.
Actually, I don't have a future event to announce, but I would like to discuss just briefly and thank a whole lot of people who were involved in the Meet Me at the Tremont event this past Saturday night out at the Tremont Nail Factory. And in particular, I'd like to start with the town's municipal maintenance department, from Director Dave Menard, who met out there with the organizers a couple of times and fulfilled every single one of the things he was requested to do, and a whole host of others that he thought of that weren't asked. The building was really in tip-top shape. They did a great job patching the concrete floor, did a great job mowing around it, put up signage directing people where to go when they arrived that night. Also his staff, and in particular Joe Edwards and Matt Kelly, spent a lot of time out there cleaning up. They were there the night of the event. They stayed late, and the place was absolutely immaculate when they were done, as was confirmed by one of our selectmen who visited the next day. I also would like to thank Ken Buckland, the Planning and Economic Development Director. He worked hard on this event, did a lot to make it a success. And finally, and certainly not last but least, but the Tremont Nail Advisory Group of Roseberry of Eastern Bank, Maria Oliva from the Cape Cod Canal Region Chamber of Commerce, and Tracy Medeiros all played an integral role in bringing the event off. They found sponsors. They actually put the tables out and organized them so that you could look down one end of the room and see the opening at the end where you could look down the river and have a nice view. They got the entertainers to play substantially for free, which is quite a coup in this day and age. Get anybody to do anything for free. They had a successful raffle. They did a hell of a lot of work. And I'm very pleased that all 3 of them have agreed to keep going as the Tremont Nail Advisory Group, going forward to advise us on the facility and to help us get activity out there. So all in all, I'm really pleased. And I'm also pleased that the 200-plus people who showed up, that was really stunning. 2 weeks beforehand, I think maybe 45 tickets had been sold. We're all scratching our heads. But certainly better late than never, and there was a lot of late, and it was very good to see the room filled like that. Actually the 3 people sitting next to me all went, except for Whiteside.
Who bought 6 tickets?
She bought tickets. She certainly was a big sponsor in her own right. Apparently she was worn out from the the prior evening when I took her to the Howie and Claire Smith's 50th anniversary, so that tuckered her out, so we couldn't get her out to the Tremont. But nonetheless, it was nice to see the fellow selectmen there. The town administrator was there. Senator Mark Pacheco showed up to check it out, and it was just a spectacular night, and it was a good sort of coming out party for the Tremont Nail Factory in terms of the sorts of things we'd like to do out there in the future. I just want to thank everybody involved. It was really a hell of a night. Next up, let's see, citizen comments. Anybody like to speak to the board? Come on up.
We can change that heading too.
Hmm?
We can change that heading for that one too.
Sandy Slavin,
Nice T-shirt.
hear no evil, see no evil, speak no evil. Ms. Whiteside, is there dates for that coastal sweep other than 9:30 for onset?
I read 3 sets of dates, and I just,
Yeah, I was actually going to ask you,
How
is there a
much time?
website people could go
10,
to?
oh, 10 to 12 each of those days.
Okay, I hadn't seen that in the paper, and I didn't hear it a few minutes ago. I only
Yep.
heard 9:30 at onset. Thank you. This is a question. I received an email from administration going out to every single employee, everybody on a commission or committee. Can I ask, what's the process of making that happen? You just sent an email? No one...
I can send an email, yeah. The administration is the town administrator.
I was surprised of the event it was promoting when it wasn't being used for things like, here's the wall, come see it, or something like that. I had never, of all my years, I had never received an email for an
I can answer
administration.
that.
And this one out promoting the event and asking people to pay the $35.
I can answer that. I requested it. It's
Okay.
that simple. That's all you have to do.
So if we want to request it for a town meeting, or veterans request it to come to the wall, that's all that has to happen, is a committee member has to request it, and Mr. Sullivan has to push the button?
Pretty much.
Mr. Sullivan has to decide to push the button.
Oh, okay. I was just surprised that
We can ask Bob if he feels that they weren't fairly represented for the moving wall with all the information we sent out.
I know, but I was just wondering at what event, what was the reason why the total administration sent one out to every single employee? I was
It's a
surprised.
fantastic event, though, it's for the entire community.
I just asked. That's as simple as that.
Okay, I just,
Yeah, there's no big mystery here.
well, thank you. Now, another question is that CPC articles were submitted to be discussed for tonight because we were asked to be on the agenda tonight, and I had heard that you did not want to talk about the CPA grants because I have members here tonight that came anticipating a discussion and vote on them.
We're aware that you're going to present them. The issue is, on some of them, I would like to have a full board available to vote on them, given that they represent some of them into the 6 figures, and I think it's only fair for Mr. Tropiano to come back. As we know, Mr. Tropiano does not like to remote participate. I will be away next week, but I will remote participate.
So we'll have all 5 members participate?
Next week, yes. But you're certainly, the purpose tonight was to at least get you to present them. So present away, you're here. We certainly aren't going to expect you to come back a second week for this.
So you will be calling us up and to talk about some of the articles?
Well, I'll be calling Alan or Derek, but yes.
You don't want CPC to answer any questions? I totally
Any questions I have will be posed tonight.
Should the members of CPC go home is what I'm asking.
No, you're going to present the articles tonight,
Oh,
and the questions will be asked. No, I said we're not going to vote tonight
Oh,
on some of them
Totally understand you don't want to vote
Yep.
on the $120,000 one.
without,
You don't want to vote on the $100,000 one.
right. We've got some big ticket items, and
Everything else is under
the pro forma, well, it's not even whether it's over $100,000. If it's new and different and costs money, we don't want to vote on it. If it's just returning money that wasn't spent, then you've got a couple of those. Those should be pretty easy. I don't think Selectman Tropiano would have any issue with us voting on those without him here.
Okay, so it isn't a dollar amount,
No,
it's a topic that you feel.
right. New and different, we'll wait.
The only new and different is the dog park.
Well,
Okay, later. Thank you.
can't wait. Let's see. What do we got here? Yep, come on up. Yep.
Good evening.
Evening, David.
Dave Hurd. We have an event going on down in Texas, which is hurricane prone. Wareham is also hurricane prone. We have a lot of low-lying areas. Hopefully, we'll never get a storm like that. But I should sincerely hope that the town is preparing for such an eventuality. And I'm not asking for details right now. Yes, we did have a storm back then. Yes.
And it did flood Main Street.
We've had Main Street flooded several times.
Hurricane Bob, 91
Hurricane Bob
14
in
feet.
91, back in 54,
and 38.
Hurricane Carol
And 38,
38. was the
38.
one.
I remember seeing boats on Main Street,
Oh, yeah.
and cars
on the
in
bridge,
river.
going across the Wareham River. But I'm just asking that the administration and the members of the town, and the citizens also, think ahead and be prepared for things that should never happen, but sometimes do, like storms of this case. The town responded very, very well to the incident at the school. That was excellent, and I'm hoping that we will respond well to any other emergencies that may come forth.
Lieutenant Walczak has a special emergency management program. Actually, we're almost like the regional center for it now, and everything has been in place for at least 2.5 years now. So when we had that storm, if you remember, that knocked us out for quite a bit in the winter,
Yes,
town is prepared as best as possible. You know, when you get flooding, no matter what you do, if there's a lot of water coming up, you can't stop it.
right.
But you do what you can. But we do have a very good management emergency program for the administration as well as police, fire, et cetera. And they have been actually tested out frequently.
Good. And we've done well in snowstorms also. Thank you.
Thanks, David.
Okay, anyone else? Okay, seeing none. Appointments, reappointments, and interviews, we've got a few of those.
Yep. Proclamation due also. I don't think it's in the,
That's the proclamation for
I
later.
think you're actually supposed to read that. It doesn't say anything.
Later.
What was that?
It's just a proclamation the library sign up.
It's on the agenda for
Right, it's
later.
on under town business,
Yeah,
so, okay,
it's not in the folder or anything else.
all right.
I move that Gregory Kamen of 11 Briarwood Lane, Rochester, Mass. 02770 be appointed as constable for the town of Wareham to a term to expire no later than June 30th, 2018, and his query is fine.
Second.
Motion to appoint by Selectman Whiteside, seconded by Selectman Scasiotti. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, abstained, 400.
I move that Joseph Leggett of 1 West Boulevard, West, should be East Wareham. Oh, he's got a different, okay. Joseph Leggett of 1 West Boulevard, Post Office Box 3 in West Wareham, Mass. 02576, be appointed as a member of the, Community Preservation Committee to a term to expire no later than June 30th, 2020. So what's on the agenda is it?
Second.
I corrected it here.
Doesn't have-
Okay, motion by Selectman Whiteside, seconded by Selectman Scasiotti. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, abstained, 400. This will be ready for you to pick up. I think there might have been one thing we have to correct on the paperwork.
I already took care of it.
Did you?
Yep.
Okay,
Caught it on yesterday.
all right.
Wendy Bergioli, 38 Tohey Road, Wareham, Mass. For appointment to the Wareham Cultural Council to expire June 30th, 2019.
Second.
Motion by Clerk Slavin, seconded by Selectman Whiteside. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, abstained, 400.
We have poll workers on there too, on that one?
Yeah, that's still on here.
Okay.
We have those like the past couple of weeks?
Yeah, there's a few more.
A couple more? Okay.
Okay, Jack M. Silva, 8 Diners Way, Wareham. Board of Selectmen appoint you as an officer, Precinct 1, to a term to expire no later than June 30th, 2018.
Second.
Okay, motion by Clerk Slavin, seconded by Selectman Whiteside. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, abstained, 400.
Linda E. Lopes, P.O. Box 1277, Onset, Mass. Election poll worker for the town of Wareham to expire no later than June 30th, 2018.
Second.
Second.
Motion by Clerk Slavin, seconded by Selectman Scasiotti. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, abstained, 400.
Last one is Joyce E. Vigia, 1 Heath Road, West Wareham, as an election poll worker, term to expire June 30th, 2018.
Second.
Motion by Clerk Slavin, seconded by Selectman Scasiotti. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, abstained, 400. And I guess that takes care of that item. Next up, licenses and permits. We have an application from 99 West LLC, Pad E, 40 Rosebrook Place.
Yeah, this is strictly a change of a board of director leaving the corporation and also an officer.
Right.
I think there's something like 15 to 16 99 restaurants affected by this in Massachusetts.
Yep.
And they just sent us a basic form for us to approve the, the change itself. It's not even.
Right, this is happening at the corporate level. There's nothing happening at the local restaurant.
We don't even.
change.
We don't actually change anything at all in the license, right?
No,
So it's
but
just.
we still have to approve the
motion to
local
approve the
officer.
change.
Second.
Okay, motion by Clerk Slavin, seconded by Selectman Whiteside. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, abstained, 400. Next up, we have application for Todd Mello, DBA Slice of Heaven, 2605 Cranberry Highway, Wareham, for a common victualer's license. Is there anybody here to speak to that? Good evening. Come on up and have a seat. And are you,
Pizza,
Yes,
hand thrown,
yes,
5 children.
correct.
what?
Looking forward to having the family in the business.
Yes, I am.
Student?
No,
Never mind.
I read the paper.
Oh, okay.
I have before me a request for common vic license for Todd M. Mello, doing business as a Slice of Heaven, 2605 Cranberry Highway, Wareham, Mass. For those people who aren't sure, we used to have a business called Olympic Pizza, I believe is where the location is, on the way to the YMCA on Cranberry Highway. Just so the public knows, this is a change of management and staff. It's important to get that out there as well. This is a new operation.
Yep.
We look forward to having you be here. Need a second for my motion?
Second.
Have them say-
Okay, motion to approve the application of Clerk Slavin, seconded by Selectman Whiteside. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, abstained, 400. This will be ready for you to pick up tomorrow in the office, and good luck with your new venture here.
Thank you very much.
Would you like to explain what you're doing and your hours and stuff like that for everybody?
Yeah, we'll be open from 11 to 12, 7 days a week. We're gonna be doing hand tossed pizza, that I believe is the best that's gonna be in town. All the ingredients are fresh. Homemade meatballs, homemade lasagna. We're using boar's head exclusively for the deli meats. So the customer service and the product is going to be 100% great.
Delivery?
Yes, we're doing deliveries. Yeah.
Okay, thank you.
All right. Thank you.
Thank you, and good luck. To Town Hall.
To Town
Okay,
Hall.
let's narrow it down here, right?
Yeah, the lightweight person on the end of the table is really interested in delivery.
His nickname is
Thank you.
What's in it for me.
Good luck, sir.
Okay, next up, we have a second-hand dealer's license application, GameStop, Inc.
Yep. Yeah, they finally stepped up.
Yep.
Okay, I'll make a motion that we accept the second-hand dealer license for GameStop, Inc., 2421 Cranberry Highway. This license is granted under the town's bylaw, Division 2, Article 2, Section 1 through 3, and the applicable rules, regulations, and fees promulgated relative to the second-hand articles.
Second. It is good
Okay,
for 1
motion-
year.
Yes, they're always 1 year.
Actually, this is actually going to be less than a 1 year, because
Right.
under our bylaw, they expire May 1st.
May
Yeah.
1st, April 30th.
April 30th.
Clear it up for everybody.
So, let's see, we have a motion from Clerk Slavin and a second from Selectman Whiteside. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, abstained, 400. That takes care of the licenses and permits. Let's see,
May
next
I-
up is a,
Ask that the the cemetery commission be able to present their 2 articles as explanation, because the others, I don't believe, have people here waiting to present them.
well, I know,
It's on, it would
On the
be,
other
Count down to F and to get that out of the way,
yes,
say?
yes.
Sure.
And then also go to the CPC articles,
Right,
to get them out of the way.
Okay.
that's fine. Let me start with cemetery commissioners.
Mrs. Bird?
Keeping it alphabetical.
Good evening.
Good evening.
Good evening.
For the record, my name is Kathleen Bird. I am one of the cemetery commissioners. And hopefully you have read the two articles that the cemetery commissioners have submitted for your approval. They both, I believe, are pretty self-explanatory. One is a transfer of monies that have been left over from previous articles, I think back in 2014, that we want to combine them to start a new account called Engineering and Expansion under the control of the cemetery commissioners and to be used by Municipal Maintenance Department. That's the first one. The second one is
It's on page 54 of the agenda that we were
Yep.
sent.
the second article for your approval is the revocation of previously adopted Town of Wareham Cemetery Rules and Regulations. The last adoption of these rules was 42 years ago. And it's time, I think, we needed to update them and make them compliant with some of the Massachusetts general laws. We have hired a consultant to help us with this. In fact, we had the draft, I hope you went through. We had a workshop this morning to tweak the draft, and we will be scheduling a hearing sometime in September so that we can get public input as far as the rules and regulations are concerned. So we do look for your approval.
The only question I would have myself is, are you looking to enshrine these in the bylaws? Because if so, then you're going to want a public hearing. And if you're going to have any sort of a public hearing anyway, would it be better to put placeholders on and then wait to do the meat of these in the motion for town meeting?
I don't think the intent was to put them in the bylaws.
Okay. Are you intending to have any sort of public hearing on them, though?
Yes, I just said that we are in the process.
Right.
And we want the consultant there, so we have to work around his schedule, but we're hoping maybe the third week of September.
But you see what I mean as far as doing a placeholder so that your final presentation is actually just the motion, if that makes any sense. I don't know, maybe Selectman Whiteside's got a different view.
Anything?
I do. I've been to the last several meetings of the cemetery commissioners as I've been their liaison for a long time. The first article to give back the funds, close out two funds,
Yeah,
and
that's-
create a new one is a very simple one. It's taking money that is not available to the municipal maintenance department and/or the cemetery department and putting it back so that it is available for
Right.
use. That has been run by town council and the town administrator. Mr. Menard, who also attends these meetings, is happy with it, and I believe that Mr. Sullivan is aware of it, but I can't speak to that because I can't remember whether I sent it to him or not. The second one, Mr. Teitelbaum, is to revoke all of the previous times that are on record to clean up the regulations. If you go in and ask to buy a plot, you may or may not, and I'm not being critical of anybody, be handed something that is dated 1982. But if you were buried before a certain period of time, I mean, there are just several iterations of these rules and regulations. The person that was hired after an RFP has submitted and worked with 30 cities and towns in the Commonwealth of Massachusetts to update their cemetery rules and regulations to use, and it includes definitions. It's an extremely thorough document, and believe me, the commissioners have spent hours looking at them and reading them, as I have. My answer to your question would be that these rules and regulations, as they are suggesting, put the town administrator and the selectmen, because the town administrator is in charge of the property of the town, and under the aegis of the cemetery commissioners. So they continue in their advisory capacity, but that the true ownership stays with the town, which is one of the things that's been a very confusing issue. So my answer to you would be, and I can't speak for the commissioners, but I would say that they've given you the 2 articles and their explanations and their votes.
You had something?
Yeah. The transfer of cemetery funds from accounts that have been set up to something else, I'm wondering if we're going to run into a little bit of a difficulty because we have a set of regulations how it works, and don't we have to revoke the setup first before we just transfer funds? Because I think the funds for the cemetery commission is how the money works. Certain funds are restricted in certain ways they can be used and everything. If we're doing anything to change what's going on, I think the first thing you have to do is revoke that set of the rules that are in place, because it's in the bylaws also.
Now, if I'm hearing them correctly, what they're looking to do is to transfer a sum of money through a town meeting article. Your article then becomes the placeholder for those funds. You can then expend those funds out of the article.
I know what you want to do, but only thing I'm bringing up is there an issue where the funds themselves have been restricted beforehand by the current rules that we have, and therefore those rules need to be revoked first before we move the funds.
So
ran
what's
this
the
by town.
restriction?
I'm just asking.
I asked
isn't
Mr.
here.
Bowen, and I asked town money person.
Yeah, I don't have an issue, I just want to make sure we aren't going to run into something, because we have very fine rules about how we move the money and this stuff.
Right.
That was the one thing. The other piece, revocation of cemetery rules. We've hired someone, because this is the first time I've heard, to help rewrite the rules for the cemetery. We're going to have to, again, make sure that we're not making it less restrictive of Mass General Law, because the Cemetery Commission does have authority through the state, and also whatever we have in place now, it may require, again, because some of it's in the bylaws. I have no problem with either one of these. I just think we have to make sure when it goes to town meeting that if there's any issue there, we can take care of it at that time ahead of
Because
time.
right now, some of our rules and regulations are not in compliant with the Massachusetts general law.
We
So
can,
we have to update them.
yeah, we can be more restrictive. We can't be less restrictive per se.
I understand.
So I don't know which way we stand without really looking at it closely. So I just want to make sure that we don't basically step on ourselves trying to do the right thing. And this is the right thing.
The document was sent to you in the packet for you to read, and if
I can't sit there and read what the packet says there versus what, we have in our rules, because obviously I'm not joking, but I didn't go to Holiday Inn Express. I'm not a lawyer. I mean, these are legal things, which are the definitions and the wording of things, using the word shall or could or will, depending on how it's written, it may have some effect how things work. Peter will have much better ideas since he does this for a living. I just want to make sure whatever it is that we don't miss. That's all I'm getting at. I have no problem putting it on the warrant. I just want to make sure that we don't miss anything.
Well, I mean, we can put them on the warrant. I think the intent of the article is clear. If there's some stuff in there we find that we have to alter to,
Clean it up beforehand.
that's fine.
I don't understand, and I'm not trying to be difficult, but I'm going to say this publicly. They've hired somebody after sending out an RFP who has worked with 30 cities and towns in the Commonwealth of Massachusetts to update their rules and regulations. What kind of an expert would be better than that? That's a moot question.
I just don't have faith in a lot of things. That's all. A lot of things are done wrong and they get whatever. I just want to make sure. I'm only concerned about the town of Wareham.
Okay, well, I think we know what the concerns are as between the two of you. Selectman Scasiotti?
I'm fine.
Okay.
Make a
Anything
motion
else?
to Put both the articles on the warrant.
Motion to put them both
I
on?
move that both articles from the cemetery, submitted by the cemetery commissioners
You
be
just did.
second.
Okay, motion by Clerk Slavin to put them both on the warrant, seconded by Selectman Whiteside. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, abstained, 400.
I thank you.
Thank you for all the work.
Thank you, Mr.
Appreciated.
That's quite all right. Pleasure.
It was a pleasure.
Let's see. I gotta sign this. Okay, next up for town meeting warrant articles, community preservation. The members will please step up.
Thank you, Sandy Slavin, co-chair of CPC.
Okay, you've submitted several articles here.
Submitted 7.
Okay. Let me pick off the easy ones first. Do you have the same order that we have here?
I hope so.
Me too.
They're titled CPC 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, so
Yep, good. Why don't you tell us briefly what CPC 1 does?
CPC 1 returns funds of $62,314.83 to the undesignated fund for the balance of the article to repair the exterior of the town hall. This is the balance of that slate roof and
Yep.
rubber roof repair.
So this is the money that was not spent.
That was not, and it's been verified by Dave Menard and Judy Lazarne that that is the correct amount that has not been spent.
Move to
Very good.
place on the warrant.
Second.
Okay, motion by Selectman Whiteside, seconded by Selectman Scasiotti. All in favor, say aye.
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 Opposed, abstained. That one goes on 400. Next up, CPC 2, to return unused funds from a project never implemented. Let's just briefly explain this one.
10 years ago, the Wareham Historic District Commission requested a grant and was approved a grant for $20,000 to expand the Wareham Historic Districts. It's not been used, they've done nothing on it.
Okay.
2 years after that, they asked for $20,000 for a survey. They have responded to us that they will get the survey done, but it's been 8 years. But once the survey is done, then they can reapply for the $20,000 to expand the districts. But right now, the money is not going anyplace. I would prefer to have it returned to our pot.
I have a question.
Go ahead.
So they had $20,000 for one item and then $20,000 2 years later?
Yes, the 2 years later was to $20,000 to do a survey of the 3 existing historic districts. And
And when was that?
that was
6 years ago?
8 years ago.
The first one we said was 8 years ago?
No, this one was 10 years ago that I'm returning the funds. The historic survey was 8 years ago.
May I ask her a question?
Yeah, you've been doing it. Go ahead.
Why wouldn't you ask to return both sets of money?
In the spring, we asked, and we got a response from the chair that they were working on the survey. Because I had a response in the spring, I did not want to return them. We got a response, so I would like to give them a little bit more time to do the survey. But they did not respond to the expansion.
Right, sounds fair enough. Is there anything else on this?
Move to place this article on the warrant.
Second.
Okay, motion to place on the warrant by Selectman Whiteside, seconded by Selectman Scasiotti. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, abstained, 400. The next 5 involve, I'll call them new expenditures. They may not be new art. There may be 1 or 2 that's not necessarily a new article, but where Selectman Tropiano, as we discussed earlier, is not here tonight, I would like for him to be here next week so that all 5 of us could make these decisions. But I would like to have the presentations done tonight so that you folks don't have to come back to a second meeting, because that would be unfair to you.
So you would not expect any additional questions from Mr. Tropiano at the next meeting?
No.
Okay.
And in fact, if he were curious enough, he could certainly reach out to you on his own.
All right.
So with that, why don't we do CPC 3, which is the Wesley United Methodist Church exterior?
This was placed on our last town warrant and pulled because there is a court action going on with the town of Acton, and somebody is taking to Supreme Court if this was a real separation of church and state to use CPA funds for a restoration of a church building. We felt that we could put this on the warrant in case the court has resolved it. We can react to this and put it up for a vote, as opposed to waiting for another 6+ months to put it on another warrant. I'm expecting, it's been presented, I'm expecting, last I heard, some result maybe in October, November, which might be too late, but I'd like to still put it on the warrant in case we can act on it at the end of October.
Mr. Titlebaum, could you comment on the progress through the courts system?
I haven't followed this case myself.
It's still being on hold. They haven't made a decision yet.
I understand that, but when was the suit brought?
The suit was brought sometime either late last year or early this year. Or actually, no, I shouldn't
It was
say
2
that. It
years
was
ago.
removed. It was removed to the SJC for this annual term.
So when do they have until to act on it?
They can sit on it till the end of the year if they want. They don't typically.
December or
they don't-
June?
Yeah, end of the year. No, they don't follow a fiscal year. They follow an annual year. And they can even sit on it till the next term if they want. It's up to them. They control their docket. It is what it is. Why don't we, and again, on all of these, I'd like to wait until Selectman
Yeah, no, I
Tropiano
just
weighs
was
in.
asking
Yeah.
for your expertise on that.
The same concern that led to it not going forward in the spring may still exist, but we'll decide that next Tuesday.
It was pulled at the spring town meeting.
Yep. Next one is CPC 4, Town Hall Auditorium rubber roof. Why don't you explain this one to us?
The auditorium leaks, and this is a request to do the restoration of the rubber roof over the auditorium. Until we can get the water problem under control, we can't fix the interior of the auditorium, and this was the step brought forward by Mr. Menard and Mr. Sullivan to do the restoration of that rubber roof.
So clearly, Mr. Sullivan, you're in favor of this? Again, I'm not going to call for a vote, but I just want to get you on the record.
Yeah, I'm in favor of this. We are the ones that submitted the application, myself, Mr. Menard. If you remember when they were having one of the Tremont Nail meetings, they actually stopped it because the guy watched a piece of material fall down from the roof during probably one of our more embarrassing moments.
Yep.
So,
So this was submitted by the town, am I correct?
Correct.
Thank you.
Okay, again, we'll take that up
An
again.
additional rubber roof? Well,
There is
it's-
a rubber.
The auditorium,
There is, but
the
I'm just
auditorium
saying-
is a flat roof. It's separate from the town hall slate roof.
Yeah.
So we already had discussed actually approving this a while ago, probably 3 years ago maybe. But because the slates were breaking and falling,
Right,
they were going into the rubber roof and damaging it. So
Okay.
that whole project had to be put on hold.
And the rubber roof at the high school, it works?
it works.
Yes.
yeah. And this is one of the things that sometimes makes our jobs a little more difficult. Had the previous articles that we're rescinding have 1 or 2 different words in them, we could have just used those funds to fix the rubber roof as well. However, they were not worded correctly, so we need to vote to rescind the rest of those monies, turn them back, and then vote those monies right back
Yeah.
out, so.
Oh, well, in the government grand. Okay, is there anything else you'd like to add to that, or is that pretty much it in a nutshell?
It's a step that has to be done before they can go off and renovate the interior.
Yep.
It's a beautiful building. I graduated from high school in there. I'd like to see it used again.
Okay, next up, Headwaters Replacement Housing.
This is the Latham Center project.
Mhm.
They're looking for $100,000 for affordable housing.
Okey-doke.
This is-
Question?
Yes, go ahead.
Have they applied to the Affordable Housing Trust or any other town entities, whether they are directly under our control or not?
May I?
Yes.
Yes, Affordable Housing Trust in April voted 300 to grant them $100,000 for this project.
So they already have $100,000.
Yes, and this is looking for another $100,000 to put down to the particular project.
And the total cost?
I'll get that in a minute.
It's pretty high, as I recall.
Well,
It's like
the
400 and something.
application came through with a very large amount because it was for 2 particular buildings. We asked them to break out specifically the cost for the Wareham, and the cost for the Wareham project is, I have it, I know I have it. $1,075,166.
Does that include the purchase of the land?
Yes, it does.
For?
I'm seeing land improvements of $112,000,
It's more than that.
but I
No.
need to look at this further to say, but there's also funds being returned for the sale of the property they have in Orleans.
How much is that, do you know?
They're expecting $200,000 to come back from the sale of the property in Orleans.
May I?
Yep.
My suggestion to you, Mrs. Slavin, would be to have a specific breakdown of the total cost of this project in this one location, and
I found it,
you did,
$240,000
for the cost of the
for
land.
the cost of the land. It was on the bottom. It took me a while to read it down.
So the land is 240 and the building is roughly 830, something like that?
$835,000,
Yep.
yes.
Okay.
For a 4-bedroom.
Does that answer your questions?
Yes, thank you.
Okay. Any other questions, or?
No, this just has to do with the specialty, that Prader-Willis syndrome that they,
Right.
so it's a special type of...
They came before this board, and they also came before Affordable Housing Trust, so it's known what they're up to. Let's see, Stony Run Main Street Preserve.
Yes, the Wareham Land Trust is looking to purchase the 6.86 acres of land off Main Street along the Stony Run. That's the little river that comes along underneath Main Street, passes through town conservation land, the Boy Scout Boy Scout camp, runs along Shaw's and out into a marsh.
There's a Boy Scout camp in there?
It's defunct,
It's,
but it's behind
Boy Scout property.
Boy Scout property.
Yeah.
Yes, it's at the end of,
I know where it is.
what's that road Tamagini lives on?
Hathaway?
No,
No,
the other
Stony Run.
the other Tamagini,
Is it Bodfish?
Bogfish. It's at the
Yeah.
end of, go to the end of Bogfish and you bump into the Boy Scout land.
It's down the end of the road.
Yep. Okay.
It runs into Buzzards Bay also, that particular piece
I
of
mean-
water.
I have a picture of the site, of the land, of the site we're looking at in conjunction with the town conservation land, the Boy Scouts, Narragansett Council portion, and how it dumps into Broad Marsh, if that helps. But that's,
Can you just hold it up? No, I can see probably from here.
this up here is the 6.6 acres that they're looking to purchase. The river brook runs down. This is conservation land. This is the Boy Scout land. There's Shaw's, and there's Broad Marsh.
How big a parcel is the Boy Scouts?
It doesn't say.
Is it smaller?
It looks to be slightly bigger than the 6.3 acres if I look by.
Thank you.
size-wise.
Okay. Any other questions on this one? And let's see, the last of the 7 is the Wareham Dog Park. I see there's a gentleman in the room who worked quite a bit on this. You can bring him up if you'd like. Good evening.
How we doing?
Good. Just for the record, if you'll tell us who you are and...
Joshua Crabb, president of the nonprofit DPAW.
Yep.
So this is a request, at the spring 2016 town meeting, the town voted to do a dog park committee to go off and search for a site for a dog park in town, and they reported that there is a piece of land owned by the town off of Maple Springs Road that would be ideal for a just over an acre dog park. With that known, they submitted a with the Natural Resources, submitted a grant request for $20,000, which is 10% of the expected cost. Now, and we need approval of the $20,000 to prove to our Stratton Foundation, who they're going for a grant for the $180,000, that the town supports the dog park. Did I summarize that?
Yep, spot on.
May I ask the town administrator if he supports this article?
Yes, that was the looking for spots. That was the best one, and it's for the, when you look at it, a $20,000 investment can get well, at least $180,000 in future plots from the Stanton Foundation.
Thank you.
Now, just one question always is asked, who's going to maintain it?
Our nonprofit group is going to maintain it, and through fundraising and all that. And then if we, some reason defunct down the road, Department of Natural Resources is offered to step up.
So, I know that's always the question. Now you got to do it. Where's the money coming from to maintain it? And he says they'll be doing fundraisers and stuff like that.
You just said something that I need to ask you to say again. The Department of Natural Resources has volunteered to step up and maintain it.
They have.
Mr. Sullivan, are you aware of that offer?
Only if DPAR defuncts.
I'm not asking you.
Oh, sorry.
I would call it a non-binding offer because God only knows who is here if they ever go defunct.
Yeah.
None of us may be here.
So that would be officially dependent on a MOU to be filed that we haven't done just yet.
Yeah, I'd actually like to commend the dog park people and the ones who came up with this initiative for sticking to it. They had a lot of hurdles to overcome, not the least of it sitting to my right, and he actually came around to their way of thinking, saw that it was a good thing for the town, and you know, it showed great flexibility on his conservative, from his conservative nature, and the liability questions have been sorted out to Mr. Sullivan's satisfaction as well as town council and in my satisfaction too. They worked very hard at this, and I'm sure they're going to be successful in achieving their outside grant and making this happen.
And
Thank you.
one of the things that we are all hoping for is with a dog park, maybe the dogs will no longer be on the beaches and the cemetery.
Don't
and our
hold your breath.
playgrounds.
Don't hold your breath.
We can only hope that we won't have to close another beach for contamination.
Yep.
And we will be starting our fundraiser. I just found out earlier tonight that all of our nonprofit stuff is in order, and we have a meeting, I believe, this Saturday at the bank to open up the account, and we'll start crowd surfing and getting some money.
Great. Congratulations.
Thank you.
Is there anything further to ask?
Just want to make a comment about the power of volunteers and the power of people who have a vision.
Trying.
Okay, I guess that concludes the 7 articles. Thank you for your time writing these and the time reviewing the applications. I know it's not easy work.
I have one more correction to make, so you'll have another version tomorrow morning.
Potato, potato. We're not voting tonight, so it's all good. See? There was a reason for that.
But if they have a question on the correction, you can't be mad at them, okay?
They will not.
Okay.
Okay. If it's just ministerial, we don't care.
Moving 2 words.
All
Up
right.
to.
Okay.
Okay.
Those are good removals.
Well, thanks to you and the rest of the committee for your work on this. It's appreciated. Thanks, Josh. Take care. Okay, that takes care of item F on the agenda. Let's jump back to item A.
Well, we will come back to item F because we really haven't done these.
Right, but it takes care of the committees.
Yeah, okay.
So,
Proclamation?
yeah, why don't you read your proclamation there?
Town of Wareham, 54 Marion Road, Wareham, Massachusetts, 02571. Proclamation, Library Card Sign-Up Month, September of 2017. Whereas the Wareham Free Library is a democratic institution that levels the playing field by serving people of every age, income level, location, ethnicity, or physical ability. Whereas the Wareham Free Library programs serve students of all ages, from every literacy to homework and college assistance, and for help with adult literacy and GED classes. Whereas the Wareham Free Librarians and staff lead the way in creating inclusive spaces for students and citizens of all backgrounds to learn together. Whereas a library card is the first step toward academic achievement and lifelong learning. Therefore, be it resolved that the Town of Wareham Board of Selectmen proclaim September Library Card Sign-Up Month for both the main library and the Spinney Memorial Branch Library, and encourages everyone to sign up for their own library card today. It witnessed, therefore, we, the Wareham Board of Selectmen, have hereunto set our hands and caused the official seal of the Town of Wareham to be affixed this 29th day of August 2017. Wareham Board of Selectmen, Peter W. Titlebaum, Esquire, Chairman, Alan H. Slavin, Clerk, Patrick G. Tropiano, Judith Whiteside, and Anthony R. Scarziotti, Jr.
Thank you. Okay, we have a vote on the release of a bond for Clean Energy Collective.
There is nothing in the folder. On Monday when I was in, unfortunately due to the staff being on vacation, I wasn't able to pull anything up.
What is this?
The vote to release a bond for Clean Energy Collective.
I'd rather put it off till next week or the week after when I have the actual paperwork so I can read it and make sure everybody understands it.
Okay.
It wasn't there and
That's fine.
we didn't have the ability to pull it up. Item C is the same thing, unless Derek has something.
No, the Oakdale Playground, we did hash that out.
There was other
The list of
equipment.
the 3 surplus items, it was the basketball poles, there were 3 things. Actually, let me ask your wife. Why don't you come on up and educate us on that, because they were fairly minor articles to be declared as surplus. There were items at other properties that I did want to put off because Mr. Sullivan was on vacation that last week and we didn't have a chance to connect to talk about those, but these we knew we did have an idea about.
Tetherball pole, basketball poles, and the glider.
Yep, slider.
Slider or glider?
It's a slide.
What do you call it?
It's a slider.
Okay.
Or glider. It's going to be replaced the one that's sitting out here at the playground behind the multi-service center. We declared most of the equipment surplus. These were missed.
Okay.
Because the basketball poles need to be new ones to support
get
the
these
new
done.
items coming in.
Yeah. Is it a glider or a slider?
You crawl up a stair, you hang on to it, and you slide across it by hanging on. It's just a fixed piece of equipment in which you slide.
So you climb up the stairs and you slide?
No, you climb up the
No,
stairs, you
it's like a
grab
little-
onto a bar,
Yeah.
and you,
It's like a trapeze.
And you could glide on it, but you're...
What, you like roll across?
yeah, it rolls across.
Oh,
Like,
okay.
you know, here I'm going to push my forward momentum, and it'll bring me across to the other end where the steps are to get me down.
It's like a trapeze.
Slider, it's
Where is it?
way in the far corner, all by its lonesome, up against the fence opposite the pavilion. It's painted green, so it's hard to see.
Why, you want it?
It doesn't work, it's rusted.
Okay, I guess not.
You put the Bob White chain.
Well,
Yeah.
yeah, we'll put this in the minutes.
Move to declare the item surplus. Second.
Thank
They
you.
look happy, too.
Okay, motion to declare surplus by Selectman Whiteside, seconded by Selectman Scarziotti. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, abstained, 400.
I have a
And if-
question.
Yeah, 1 second. Mrs. Slavin, if you'll get the other items just send them out in an email to Mr. Sullivan,
I have a
and we'll get his
question.
thoughts on it for the other two properties you had mentioned.
I resent them this morning.
Oh, okay, good, thank you.
I have a question.
Your question is?
He'd have dollar
When is
values, too.
Oakdale's playground going to be completed?
When all the work's done.
I'm sorry? No,
Derek? Let's just have Derek answer it.
I have about 300 emails on this, so they've ordered the equipment.
Sorry?
They've ordered the equipment.
they voted the equipment,
They've ordered
the equipment, they being who?
the
Hopefully the
town
town of
actually
Wareham.
on this, so, yeah.
Okay.
No, technically, you didn't order it. The town had to order it.
Okay, so
Yeah.
the town ordered it, okay. And do you have an,
6
won't.
to 8 week turnaround,
Thank you.
installations, that's snow, rain, apocalypse. I don't know.
We've published a time frame where we're expecting a grand opening in the first week of November.
Okay.
What year?
That's a rhetorical question.
Could resist.
Okay, are we done with that item?
Yes.
Hopefully.
And
This is your baby, Clerk Slavin. Discussion and vote to authorize letter in support of Massachusetts House Bill 2683, Senate Bill 1845, Act relative to protecting consumers of gas and electricity from paying for leaked and unaccounted for gas.
Yeah, this came from, actually, up in Wayland. Some of the towns already have I think, passed this resolution that will go to the House and Senate. What happens is if you have gas leaks, which in Wareham, if you go to like Oak Street as an example where I live, you would have noticed about 4 months ago they dug up the street running down just to where Peter is by the boat ramp and replaced all the gas line because they were all seeping. And it's a common problem really throughout Wareham and other places in Massachusetts. It was kind of funny because where my mailbox is in front of my house, but on the other side of the street, if you walk over there, you can smell gas. So I actually brought the gas guy over. Just, you're only going this far, why aren't you going farther? And they basically said it wasn't a severe enough leak to worry about. I thought that was kind of cute. I was asking if he'd light a match and we could see if we could find where the flame would come out, but that's didn't work. He wouldn't listen to me on that one. So basically what happens is all of us who have gas actually pay for the leak because in the cost of, the projects for the gas company, they take all their costs. So if they lose gas, we still pay for it. So this is a bill basically to stop the gas companies from charging us for stuff that's either lost through the system, et cetera. I checked with their Representative Gifford, and she's in favor of this. I also checked with Senator Pacheco, and he's actually as a sponsor of the bill as well, and obviously is in favor of it.
Yep.
So it's something I believe we should do.
I have a question.
Go ahead.
How do you know how much has been lost? How does,
That's a good question.
It's been an effort from what they call gas leak alleys. In mid-2016, had been doing work on it and came up with this information.
I would assume they'd probably, from their plant, let's say, they probably release how many cubic
Right.
feet are out. And then you've also got what the homes actually use. So I would guess the
so the
difference
seepage
in the end
is,
use.
so you use the difference?
That's what I would assume on it.
They actually,
Just a matter of flow.
there's actually a website which actually has natural gas leaks maps. It shows your town's current and historical gas leak history. It's an ongoing issue that's been around for a while, and they all realize that we're paying for it. The gas companies are charging us for it. So this is something they've been working on for a while to try and get this taken care of.
So do other this is sort of off topic, but do other utilities make that allowance?
Do other gas companies, you mean?
Are you
Other
talking electricity?
utilities?
Well,
Sure.
electricity, the process of delivering electricity, you lose it in the transmission anyway, so that can't really be controlled.
You can also lose in defective equipment. It still comes into the cost of what they supply to the state in order to get their rates. Actually, if you want to go one step farther, our water pollution control facility, if they have any efficiencies, losses, whatever, it goes to the cost of running it.
Right.
We all
Well,
pay
the
for it.
water pollution control facility recently had to dump an entire tank.
We pay for it.
No, the water pollution did not. The
Water,
water department.
water department did,
Yeah.
yeah.
But water pollution
Don't,
is
please don't say we
No, no,
dumped a full
excuse me,
tank.
yes. Was not the water
Not from that
pollution
place,
control
thank you.
facility. It was the Wareham Water Department had to dump an entire tank of water due to suspected
Contamination.
contamination
And the cost of doing
And-
that operation.
and the,
Will
right.
be in their cost of doing businesses, which is how they figure out their billing to the residents.
So is this just, and I'm sorry to interrupt, just, is essentially what they're trying to do is to prevent their lackadaisical nature on the spoilage, if you
It
will.
all is, because there's a history of these leaks.
So right now they have the leaks, and their determination is it's cheaper just to let it leak than it is to fix the problem. So this would have them fix the problem. It may be a higher upfront cost to everyone, but at the end, it may be better.
Forced change, yeah.
Right. And frankly, it may stop that every few years, suddenly you see our roads being ripped up because they determine that leak's bad enough. And if you've ever watched, you can tell where some of the leaks are because grass does not grow where those leaks are.
Right.
Really?
Yeah.
No.
Every once in a while, the house,
Kills the roots.
every once in a while, the house blows up too,
Yeah, well,
because the leak goes from minor to severe.
it's the cost of doing business.
I just have one more question, and it's really, but if they had to rip up a road, who pays for repaving the road?
Gas company.
They do.
This company does.
I'm looking forward to it.
If you remember, after Onset Ave was paved, they cut along the section. They had to go, and then they gave the town, I believe Mr. Gifford really beat him up for it, gave him over 200,000, if my memory serves me, for that. So, you know. There was another road that we just paved, but the utility paid for it because they had opened it up, so they paid for the whole portion of it.
Yeah, I think Oak Street is still up in the air because they patched it, and there's actually a divot across the road itself that's not up to the actual surface level, and that road was less than 5 years old.
Yeah.
So I think Mr. Menard's
It was
working on the gas
just
company.
5,
Yeah.
I inquired. It was just 5, but nonetheless, apparently he
fixed
did strike
properly.
some, no, and they know that. They know they have to come back, and I think they're gonna cut down the center line and at least do that side of the road.
But either way, it's
move
something that
to-
has support.
Move to authorize Mr. Titlebaum to execute a letter in support of Massachusetts House Bill 2683, Senate Bill 1845.
Second.
Okay, motion to authorize the letter from Selectman Whiteside, seconded by Clerk Slavin. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, abstained, 400. I'll get that out soon. Next up, vote to ratify police patrolman and dispatchers union contracts.
So,
Those were both discussed and voted in executive session. However, to make them fully effective, we have to revote in open session.
Motion to
Moved.
approve.
second.
Okay, motion approved by Clerk Slavin, seconded by Selectman Whiteside. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, abstained, 400. Selectman Tropiano all supported those during the executive session, so. Let's see, now we're back to town meeting articles. I understand Mr. Sullivan has a few for us to consider.
You should have a handout. The first one is to establish revolving funds by bylaw. That's as a result of the Municipal Modernization Act. It is fairly lengthy. We will have to hold a public hearing on this. I've been trying to figure out where to put it in the bylaws, if you will. And when I was looking at it, I thought Division 1, was it Article 6, Section 4, which is financial matters?
It's probably
I would
best
think,
there.
yeah,
Yeah.
that would be so right after the requirement of having a chart, the employee chart, we could put this in. And I've been going through it. This is the information that we have to place in there. So every year we'll just vote the limits on there, and the only other thing that you would see added to this, and it's partially cut off on page 2, you would see the Tremont Nail Factory buildings and grounds putting a revolving account for that. So any revenues that we see from renting out the facility and such can then be put back into the facility for repairs, upkeep. And that we've put a maximum of 50,000 at that for, seems to be enough for the time being. If we need to increase it, we can at the next annual town meeting.
Right, I think the last one we put in was the rental inspection program.
Right.
Hammond School too, yeah.
Hammond School, yeah. So we have added to these over the years. It's not just the same ones every single time.
I'll move to place it on the warrant.
Second.
Okay, motion to put on the warrant by Selectman Whiteside, seconded by Selectman Scasiotti. All in favor, say aye.
Okay.
Opposed, abstained, 400. That goes on the warrant. Next up, you have a parking kiosk article.
Yes, we already, all the kiosk revenues from the onset parking kiosk go into a receipts reserved for appropriation account. However, through the Municipal Modernization Act, you need to re-vote and accept the provisions of Mass General Law, Chapter 40, Sections 22A, Sections 22B, and 22C. So this is what we have to do to make sure that this continues on.
To include.
And otherwise, those funds close out to the general fund.
Move to include.
Second.
Motion to include on the warrant by Selectman Whiteside, seconded by Clerk Slavin. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, abstained, 400. This is a question for you, Clerk Slavin. It seems that this certain provisions of the Municipal Modernization Act actually require a little more work rather than less.
Yes.
Okay.
But it also allows you to do things that you normally can't do.
Yep.
It gives you more flexibility at the end of the day, which is what you want.
There was some unintended consequences. Actually, with the revolving, even though it ended up by bylaw, they reduced the caps where you could only have a certain percentage for each department, which is fantastic. However, you need to do it by bylaw, and it's kind of like making the repair up front and having the issue simpler later.
It's
Yeah.
almost like a check and balance, because before this came through with the new administration, there was talk of eliminating a lot of these particular revolving accounts, enterprise funds, et cetera. So this basically, at the end of the day, makes it easier for municipalities. But you do have to do more work.
Okay, next up, PEG access and cable-related fund acceptance.
So there's probably, I don't know, maybe most of you, everyone knows this, but the towns may reserve the franchise fees and cable-related revenues that we receive from the cable companies, and that's to support public educational, government access channels, which is, in all essence, we have WCTV, which is the nonprofit. Some communities have their own production. We've determined this is the best process. So it's also, these funds can monitor compliance with the franchise agreement and prepare for license renewal. So essentially what we're doing is creating a receipts reserve for appropriation account. The funds will flow into the receipts reserved appropriation from the cable franchise fees that we receive. Then town meeting will have to appropriate those funds out to it would be to WCTV, because that's our provider. So if we don't do this, again, these revenues close out to the general fund. Then you have to wait for free cash certification. Then you're going to vote it over to them. Otherwise, unless you're just going to give the money back to the cable providers.
I'll move that we include this article on the town warrant. Second.
Motion to include by Selectman Whiteside, seconded by Selectman Scasiotti. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, abstained, 400. Just as an aside, Mr. Sullivan and I are making arrangements to go out and meet with the WCTV Board of Directors to explain this to them, because it is going to work a change in how they get paid.
Okay.
And they need to be aware of that for their own operational.
Yeah, they normally get, the
Purposes.
check comes into the town, and the
Yes.
money gets transferred out less than a percentage.
Pass-through.
Yeah,
So
okay.
it's just, as
It's
Derek
no
just
longer a
said,
pass-through. It's got to come in, it's got to stick, and then it's got to be appropriated. So it's going to be done a little differently, but they need to understand how it works.
we'll
And
have
that's
to
why
be
we
more
have the
careful.
next article to actually provide them. So we receive quarterly revenues from the cable companies. So it's, in a way, we need to look at this, because it could be that they're essentially a little bit in arrears, because we have to receive the funds before we can give it, and we can't bring these accounts into deficit in order to give them the revenue.
Right, so it may be that the new schedule is different.
Okay. Move to include this article as well. Second.
Okay. Motion to include by Selectman Whiteside, seconded by Selectman Scasiotti. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, abstained, 400. Next up, vote to accept Massachusetts General Laws, Chapter 40U.
This is going to be a substantial, because this is a bylaw change, but so this law allows the town to treat payment of housing, sanitary code, snow and ice violations. We don't have snow and ice violations in our bylaw, but in a similar manner as other non-criminal fines, such as parking tickets, you would have a hearing officer that you appoint, but the new procedures allow the town to commit the unpaid fines to property tax bills. We now have teeth. You can so instead of people, snubbing their nose, you now can put those fines on property tax bills. That would make people, I would assume, more compliant in fixing their properties, bringing them up to code, removing the sanitary violations.
Yep.
So this is something that when we've been looking through items, how to give ourselves more teeth and fix some of the issues in the community, this is one of the best laws we've come across.
Yeah, it makes the violations more lienable.
So we will have to establish the fines and fees.
Yep.
I've seen Revere has a real nice setup for the whole matter, and I think we're going to have to place this in our bylaws. We'll have to choose the section, the whole manner. So we'll need a public hearing on it as well. So there is work to be done on this, but I would think this is something we need to move on sooner rather than later.
I move to include it.
Okay, motion to include by Selectman Whiteside, seconded
Second.
by Clerk Slavin. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed,
Aye.
abstained, 400.
And just one question, did you say it gives us the ability to lien the properties or just build them?
No, it just makes it more, I said more lienable, because now you've added it to the taxes, which are easier to lien
Yeah.
Okay,
if they don't
Yeah.
pay.
all right, I want that step.
Yeah. I think what this really does, which is the most important piece, it takes it out of the hands of the magistrate when we go before them, and they don't want to bother with the paperwork and everything else, and we go before them with fines we're trying to collect. They blow us out and say thank you and no thank you, and then we spend all this time and effort, we get nothing, and therefore people know that they can do whatever they want because there's no fine.
Well, they'll still have a right of appeal.
Yeah,
That won't go
but it
away,
shows
but-
you-
Yeah, there's
it
a whole
changes how we
appeals
go
for
at it.
Tony's.
Hmm?
Tony's.
Is it going to show as a line item on the bill, or is it just the bill and then no breakout?
Yeah, I don't know. That's a good question. I would prefer to show it. You'd see.
I'd rather see it as a line
Yeah.
item.
I think it has to be a line
Yeah.
item.
Yeah.
So there's they have some templates as well, so that's something we can pull up.
Okay.
Yeah, that's we'd rather than reinvent the wheel, see what's working. So
Okay, next one, to authorize the town to borrow $200,000 from the MWPAT for the septic loan program.
That's a standard when we do every year.
Yep.
yeah.
Let's make a motion that we go ahead and put that on the warrant.
Second,
Okay, motion to
may I ask a
include.
question before we vote?
Go ahead.
Who's going to be administering this?
This right now, it's been by Mr. Sanborn, the CETA director, so it'd be out of the Planning Community Development office.
So it will continue out of
Planning Community.
planning and, okay, thank you.
Okay, motion by Clerk Slavin, seconded by Selectman Whiteside. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, abstained, 400. Accept the provisions of Chapter 43D expedited permitting.
So this is the template that we've received through SERPED, through the expedited permitting, the grant we actually received to go forward and do this. We've had the parcel owners agree to adopt in. So any of these parcels, the owners have agreed to be part of this. And I'll give you the perfunctory explanation. In 2006, the Massachusetts General Law, Chapter 43D, expedited permitting became law. Since that time, the program has been establishing an inventory of priority development sites on which municipalities offer a maximum of 180-day local permitting process. This program also offers cities and towns tools for targeted economic development by providing a transparent and efficient process for municipal permitting. The property owner's voluntary participation also increases the visibility of the PDS through online marketing of the site and by promoting Wareham's streamlined regulatory climate through improved municipal planning and permitting efficiencies. So what we've been asked to do, we're doing.
I move to place it on the warrant.
Second.
Motion to include by Selectman Whiteside, seconded by Selectman Scasiotti. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, abstain,
What this does,
0.
as mentioned here, it's a 180-day local permitting process, which means that if these particular pieces of property, it makes it much easier for the property holder. If they want to develop something, they know that within 180 days, the process will be completed. From the time it starts, there's a 180-day trigger. So if we had an example, Bay Point, and say it was in that particular zone, the project would have been approved or disapproved within the 180 days period.
Okay, next up, approve union contracts.
So these are the last 3 contracts. The only one that has not been voted on by this board is the Wareham Lieutenants Union. We'll be entering in negotiations the beginning of next month. And we have 12 unions on the town side of local government, so these are the last 3. And then all contracts will be up to date through June 30th, 2019.
Nice job. I'll move to put it on the warrant.
Second.
Okay, motion to include by Selectman Whiteside, seconded by Selectman Scasiotti. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, abstained, 400. Yeah, I'd like to commend the town administrator, frankly, for the past, how many years? 5 years or so? He's been doing an outstanding job with the collective bargaining process and getting the unions current, which is something that was sorely lacking in prior administrations.
I'd like to also thank Mr. Emerson and Doreen, the new HR person,
Yep.
which has helped, town administrator tremendously take some of the workload off.
Yep.
They've been excellent, a great hire. I don't know who's thought of us to get an HR director. They must be pretty smart.
Getting deep in here. Next up, budget transfers.
That's the annual article for the
Move to place
fall.
it on the warrant.
Motion to include by Selectman Whiteside, seconded by Selectman Scasiotti. All in favor, say aye. 400. Good.
Fall capital plan.
Yep.
We usually don't have those till, right beforehand.
Move to place it.
Yeah.
Yeah, they're even slower than community preservation.
It's not them, it's actually,
Is it you this
Yeah,
time?
it's-
it comes out.
it's me that determines they work and give us the recommendation. It's myself that has the final ones that gets brought to town meeting. As much as I would love to get the heat on someone else.
It involves determining free cash, et cetera. That's why
Right.
we have to wait till as late as we can.
Yeah, the DOR is scheduled to be out on October 11th for certification.
Okay, we have a motion?
We did. A motion and a second already.
Yeah.
Me,
Motion.
him.
Okay. Motion by Selectman Whiteside, seconded by Clerk Slavin. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Yeah.
Opposed, abstained, 400. It's on. And transfer of free cash.
Yeah, so again, we'll need certification of free cash, but per the updated policy, it's $100,000 that we'll be transferring to stabilization fund to maintain our 5% of the operating budget, as well as whatever we receive in interest and gains. Also, the OPEB trust fund is 25% of the remainder, and we also know that there's roughly $600,000 for the schools and what we've looked for. So but the $600,000 for the schools would be under capital.
Move to place it on the warrant.
Second.
Okay, motion to include by Selectman Whiteside, seconded by Selectman Scasiotti. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, abstained, 400.
Can
There will be additional articles brought forward for next week.
Can I just ask?
Consideration. Good.
Yeah, the amend, the mobile home, the one that keeps getting killed.
Yep.
That has already been written
Yeah,
and
we'll bring
forwarded.
that back.
So
Bring that back next week.
why don't we just put it on the warrant now?
Well, I'd like Selectman Tropiano to be able to vote for it as well.
Are we going to bring that back at 100% count or 50%?
Well, we'll get into that. We'll put it in at 100 and then we can lower it, but I'm not done fighting this battle.
It's on
So
the
you want
list.
to hold on that one?
Yep, we're going to hold on everything else at this point until we have a full board.
We'll need to marshal our forces on that one.
What?
We'll need to marshal our forces on that one. It's a toughie.
No, it isn't.
Well, it's tough to get through the legislature,
Yes.
as proven by the fact that we've had 6 bites at the apple, and the apple's still there.
Well, you know my feelings on being ignored when you have a town meeting that voted unanimously to support something that is local rule that's totally ignored. I find that to be reprehensible. I found it reprehensible last year, the year before, and the year before. And it doesn't make sense. And for people to drag their feet on it is wrong. And for people to bury it is wrong. And for people to make it difficult to pass is wrong.
Alrighty then. Let's see, I think that gets us through the regular town business. I think we have a couple of 48-hour items to
Yep.
consider.
First one I have came in. Before we do this, I would ask people again, please give us at least 2 weeks when you come in for these permits, whether it's a one-day liquor license or a road use, whatever. I know we were closed on the 22nd, but I believe at least one of these came in like yesterday for, I think, like September 3rd or whatever. You know, it just really doesn't work very easily. It puts us in a bind, and sometimes we almost have a special meeting, so please try and give us a 2-week time frame. First one I'm going to read off, permission hereby given to Marilyn Ricci, 5th 7th Street, Onset, to close off 7th Street for a block party on September 3rd from 4 p.m. to 10 p.m. It is agreed that the town will be harmless, moral liabilities, no alcoholic beverages to be served or consumed. Action on the street will be in compliance with town bylaws. I just want to double check. This came in before I saw it. I don't have from Onset. The form is here. It says block party and a date, but I don't have a signature from the chief there, but that's on their end.
You do have the signature of the chief of police?
No, I
don't have
would make
from
the
fire
motion pending
department.
his signature then.
Fire department is not here.
I would make the motion pending the
Police
receipt of
department,
the other signatures. They've got to, we have to know that they know.
yeah, police department has a detail listed,
Well, details fine.
and the street closed. They've got the correct forms, and the revenue form is here. And I take that back. There's a second form here on the Onset Fire Department at the back of the paperwork here with a
Right,
signature.
so you do have that? Okay.
With the signature?
So we have a detail
signature.
and the fire district has signed off.
And EMS. I have all of them.
All right, so it's good then. No further
Is
action
the town
required.
administrator signed off on it?
I don't sign off
You don't
on
need to
those.
sign off on street permits.
Nope.
Okay.
That's us.
That was a motion to approve.
Can I get a second? No second? I'll second out of necessity so we can have a vote. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed?
Aye. Opposed.
You're opposed? It fails 2-2.
Okay. Have to notify them that.
Yep.
Not approved. -2.
Yep.
Okay. Second one.
Date on that one?
That was going to be September 3rd.
Yep.
We don't meet till the 5th.
Right.
Next, I have a one-day liquor permit for Paul Rose, VFW, 4 Gibbs Ballpark Road, also for an event on September 3rd from the hours of 12 noon to 7 p.m. on the premises of the Onset VFW Pavilion. It's all alcohol, nonprofit. And
Does it say what the event is?
getting to that, it's a horseshoe tournament and picnic.
Excuse me?
Horseshoe tournament and picnic. And they have a rain date of 9/4 in case it gets rained out on 9/3. All paperwork is here.
Okay, we have a motion from Clerk Slavin. Any second? Second, Scott Yasi. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, abstained.
I am opposed.
Okay, it passes 3-1-0.
And the reason for opposing that and the previous one, you need to plan ahead. Prior planning prevents poor performance. That's what
There's
they
another
use.
adjective in there, but we won't say it.
Right.
Let's see. Any other 48-hour business? Selectman
No.
Scasiotti, Selectman Whiteside, Clerk Slavin? I don't have anything. Mr. Sullivan, do you have anything?
I do not.
Okay, Town Administrator's report.
I have been away, I'm back in town, and I gave you a bunch of warrant articles.
And I guess that's it.
Thank you.
Liaison Initiative Reports, Selectman Scasiotti, Selectman Whiteside.
I gave you my liaison report by attending the cemetery commissioners and speaking on those, on
Yep.
behalf of those 2 articles.
Clerk Slavin.
Okay.
Oh, and one other, may I?
Yep. What do you got?
I guess I'm officially the liaison to the Veterans Council. I want to say that the moving wall coming to Wareham was an extremely successful project, despite many burps and hiccups. And unless you're somewhat my age, I'm not sure that you can understand the impact that seeing that wall has. For people who grew up with their brothers and cousins and husbands and all of that drafted to go to a war that wasn't really a war, and when they came home, nobody said anything nice about them and called them names and spat on them and stuff like that. Horrendous, horrendous memories, and I'm a woman. I didn't have to go. So I want to thank the town for allowing the sponsorship. I want to thank the Veterans Council and the Friends of the Veterans Council and all of the people who spend hours and hours and hours and nights doing a stupendous job. I want to thank also Rich Bowen for being able to get the first day's speaker.
Mr. Casey.
Mr. Casey was an extremely nice,
Did a great job.
yeah, great speech. Again, a child of the war, whose dad died in Vietnam. So it was a really moving speech that he gave.
We also should give extreme thanks to Bob White. That was a lot of effort and a lot of work for one person. There were a lot of other volunteers, but Mr. White really spearheaded it. This is something he wanted to do.
Thank you.
Okay, I got a few
Do you have
things.
any other liaising to discuss, or?
Yeah, there's a project on Patterson Brook Road with 2 more buildings proposed. They're very much like the industrial park buildings on the other side of the street. One of the members actually on the planning board last night, I was pleasantly surprised, had gone through the current zoning bylaws, et cetera, was looking at what the requirements are for buildings as far as design and windows, et cetera, and looked at the actual proposal and asked them to go back and check to make sure they were complying with the current zoning, which I thought was finally someone stepped up and actually brought something forward that made sense and questioned this, so therefore they'll be back in 2 weeks to talk about that particular piece. They'll probably be back in 4 weeks for final hearing and stuff to get proposals for it. The 2 buildings are, I've got the square footage, but they're 2 large, basically steel span buildings to go in there. So that was there on the planning board. Everything else went smoothly. Now, we have a couple things that have gone on. One is Route 6 and 28. I got an email from Pam Hasner from Mass DOT 5. They were starting to work on doing a public informational meeting for Wareham 6 and 28 project this fall. And this fall means sometime this fall. I don't have a set date, but they'll be coming to town and setting up so all the people who get affected by the 6 and 28 construction, they have a chance to look at it, talk about it, and hopefully resolve any issues they have. That's the first thing. There was, Chairman Titlebaum asked me to look into a couple things. The first thing I got was the lighthouse. Someone is complaining, I believe, about the tree blocking part of the lighthouse as you come into Wareham on the left-hand side. The police station's on the right. That one obviously is clear because there's nothing around it. The one on the left side, there's a tree. Like all trees, we all have the same problem. Trees, as they get older, get bigger and cover more areas. Well, the lighthouse is partially blocked by the tree, if you're coming along there. It was kind of said that, maybe the garden club would handle it, but there wasn't a direct request or anything. Looking at the tree, where you would have to cut it is probably 15 to 30 feet in height to go up there and cut it. I don't think the garden club is going to be going up in the air and doing that. So the question was, I contacted the state, but I also looked at, and the garden club did also, the tree itself, whose land is it on? Because the road going in, is Route 28, which is basically state highway. So, never mind rushing me, dear. I want to do it slowly so everybody understands. So we first had to make sure who owned the land, because if it's state property, the town has no right to go on there and do anything. Obviously, the garden club couldn't do anything either. It turns out, looking at the assessors map, unless I've made a mistake, the land is actually on town property. So it would be up to municipal maintenance if and when they had the ability to trim it, if it's safe or not.
So we have, how's that town property?
The land in front of the lighthouse, to the left of it, is actually, the
There's
assessors
a
map
small
shows.
parcel?
Yeah, it has a small parcel of town property. That's what it shows.
I'm
So it just-
auctioning that off.
They probably reserved it out when they,
Do whatever you
When
want
they
with it.
when they built Cranberry Highway and
Right.
designated it as a highway, so that the lighthouse would be on town property.
I'll
Because
bet
it's
you-
not a state lighthouse, we know that much.
No, it belongs to the town, the property.
So,
So that's what the assessors map shows, so I have to throw it to your ballpark,
Okay.
unfortunately, because
All right.
that's the answer. I can't get the state to do it because it's not state property. So that takes care of that issue. The other one we've been banging around with is the Swifts Beach Road, Route 6. I've got an official letter from Serped with a study, which I'll give to Mr. Sullivan. We can submit that to Mass DOT. The issue there is that I've got a semi-official response already, again from Pab Hasner. They rate these projects by as a priority or a non-priority. The volume of the response for traffic numbers were okay to consider a traffic light, but because there's no accidents and the occurrence of overall traffic is not considered a priority, which means the state would not be advancing putting a light in that intersection, because unless it's considered a priority, they aren't going to do it. We'll get an official notification once we file, but I might as well come right out forward and say what the results are at this point. There are a couple other options down the line possible. I can't go into any details because nothing is written down, but I know that Mattapoisett and Marion are working with Serped on a project to take Route 6 because of the decrease in traffic over the years because of 195, and actually changing the road itself from a 4-lane road to a 2-lane road through those two communities. I went and called Serped because I didn't want Wareham to be involved with this, because my first thought was, well, that means the state's going to make these towns take over the road. There's no way we can plow the road, maintain it, or anything else without going out of business financially. The information I got back from Serped yesterday was that this project that's being brought forward, the state will still maintain the road. So if Mr. Sullivan is willing, we can look into it, but with the
Is it a-
stipulation that we would not have to absorb anything.
Is it a proposal to do 2 lanes with a turning lane in the middle?
I don't have all the information. They possibly have a 3, but basically they want to, the two towns are saying they want to bring the road down on 1 lane each side instead of 2. I haven't seen the paperwork yet because I just got a hold of Serpent yesterday.
Because if you do that in those 2 towns and you have a 4-lane feeder into 2 lanes, that's nasty.
That's
Well, it's going to come in, if
Yeah.
they do it, it'll come into Wareham with,
not good.
going from Wareham into Marion, you go from 4 to
It's
2.
an accident waiting to
Yeah.
happen.
So,
They actually have some of those, that 3-lane, the 1-lane turning lane in Mattapoisett, and it is just brutal to try and go by.
the other
Yeah.
piece of this too is they're doing this under the Complete Streets program, which means the sidewalks will be widened to make up for it as well. There'll be a full bicycle path, et cetera, and never mind shaking your head out there. And the other part of it is that there is money from the federal government and the state for Complete Streets programs. So
There's,
it's just out there.
we have a lot of concerns with the Complete Streets program
I know.
because while the state and maybe feds will give you money now, it means into the future, every project you're doing has to comply with
With
that.
federal law.
Which would mean the costs of that being exorbitant. So where they might give us a little carrot now, and
Stick with
later
big.
on, we're getting rolled over.
Well, what I'm concerned about long-term is there's been, at least at Mass DOT 5, in the meetings I've gone to and at the State House, there is talk about taking some of the, what we call, state highways, like Route 6 and others similar, and they also talked about Route 28, if you remember, of taking them to the state, not designating them as a state highway anymore. And we would have to fight very hard because we don't want to inherit those things.
Yeah.
God, no.
So there's a lot of pressure going on right now.
One of the most interesting things I've seen about Through the Complete Streets is in front of the Plainville Casino there, where you basically have a, 400-yard bike lane?
Yeah.
And that was the
Man,
fun.
you get Florida, you estimate the casino. Last thing is, Mr. Sullivan and I went up to Bridgewater State University yesterday just to talk about possible long-term collaborative actions between the town and Bridgewater State. It was a very interesting discussion with Fred Clark, the president. We have nothing definite to report, but we have the beginnings of some discussions, short and long term. That's it.
Okay, then. Consent agenda, let's see.
Oh, one thing, Peter.
Yep, go
I
ahead.
got a quick note from the Cape Flyer. They are up about 4% in passenger service this year. They made a profit every year, so obviously they're on track to continue being profitable and actually growing. It's not a
Nice
huge growth,
pun.
but it's steady.
Just got to figure out a way to pick them off here before they go over the bridge.
Yep.
Authorization to sign bills. We're going to hold off on the regular session minutes. Could we have a motion for to approve and hold the executive session
So
minutes,
moved.
though?
August 14th, 2017.
Yep.
Move and hold.
Second.
Approve and hold.
Okay, move to approve and hold by Selectman Whiteside, seconded by Selectman Scasiotti. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, abstained, 400. We'll come back to the other ones.
Move to approve the bill of $15,416.66 to the law office of Richard P. Bowen.
Second.
Motion to approve Attorney Bowen's invoice by Selectman Whiteside, seconded by Selectman Scasiotti. All in favor, say aye.
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 Opposed, abstained, 400. And who would like to go home?
Motion to adjourn.
Second.
Motion adjourned by Selectman Clerk Slavin, seconded by Selectman Scasiotti. All in favor, say aye.
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 Opposed, abstained, 400. Good night, Wareham. Thank you.